everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. My goal here is to help us all connect, inspire, and create. We cover different photography topics, and a guest speaker is here every Wednesday to share their photography and experiences behind the lens to inspire you to create better images and to improve your own photography portfolio. A list of upcoming presentations can be found on my website at lindanickell.com. And under Happiness Hour, you'll find the links to my YouTube channel and our community blog. Erin Randall is the lady that pushes all the buttons, and sometimes mine, and keeps things running smoothly for us. You can connect with her at admilyorcoaching.com. Say hello, Erin.
Hello, Gracie.
Ooh, something different. All right, my guest tonight is David Cutts. Hunting and fishing led him into wildlife photography. David's blog and weekly newsletter are a great resource if you want to learn more about the birds and small critters that are in your own backyard. In tonight's presentation, Creating a Backyard for Bird Photography, David will share his tips on creating a native landscape to attract more birds to your backyard, and he'll even throw in a few important tips on how to best photograph them. So welcome to the Happiness Hour, David.
Thank you, Linda. I'm glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you. So for some just a backstory, David and I have never met, but somehow I think I ran across your photos. You post on a Facebook page called Birding Texas or Texas Birds of Texas, something like that.
Yes.
And he kept showing up in my feed, or that Facebook page did. And at one point I noticed that you had a newsletter, and I'm just a nosy person. So I clicked on it and I stalked your page for a little bit. And I think I've been following you for a little while through Facebook, and somehow we kind of became Facebook friends.
Yeah.
And I have pulled a lot of my speakers from Instagram, and you're the first person from Facebook, because I don't use Facebook very often, kind of hate it, but I was brave and I reached out to you and invited you to come, and you said yes. And so here we are.
And here we are.
So, all right, tell us a little bit about how you got started in birding.
Well, it was basically out of necessity, basically. I love wildlife photography, period. I like it all. But I have a 40-hour-a-week job. I live in Dallas, so it's not like I got deer romping around in my backyard. So the most obvious thing is birds. So I actually started with hummingbirds, and it's kind of exploded in my backyard. And my backyard has become this huge oasis paradise for birds. And I've had a lot of luck. I'm not an expert at this.
That's
Believe
okay.
me, I've just gotten really lucky. Last year I had 9 new species in my backyard. I only count if they come down off the fence. If they come down over the fence, I count them. But yeah, it's been pretty amazing, actually, the amount of birds I get.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of excited so, under the pandemic, I think everybody in this room is going to agree that they looked after the backyard and spent a lot more time this last year and a half almost of being at home. And I know that I turned my backyard into a place that, I grew more flowers. I grew more things that attracted. I was really trying to feed a squirrel, and that kind of got way out of hand. But I was excited because I did see a lot of different birds. And when I started keeping track, my backyard is teeny tiny, like teeny tiny postage stamp. And at one point I had kind of kept up with what my little checklist, and I had 19 different species of birds. And that just really surprised me. And it was kind of exciting to find them. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you here to share not just about photography, but a little bit about how do you get them in your backyard, because you have a huge variety.
Well, the thing is, everyone has what I call the big 5. You got your dove, your cardinals, your blue jays, your chickadees, and your sparrows. Everybody has them. And you can only take so many pictures of sparrows. I mean, it's not really a sellable item. People don't want to buy sparrow pictures. And as much as I love the Cardinals and Blue Jays, they get a little boring.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the object was to get more of a variety into my yard. And that's where I started going with native landscaping. Because if you think about it, the native landscape attracts your native insects, reptiles, and all that stuff, which attracts the birds. So in reality, you're not landscaping for the birds, you're landscaping to create, it's basically a mini ecosystem in your backyard.
Yeah.
You want it all. You want the insects. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't like the bugs, but to get the birds that don't eat the bird seed, you got to have the bugs.
Yeah.
And everything in my yard is all native. Everything's from North Texas or the hill country area and around that area, Austin. So yeah, it's been pretty amazing actually. I've been pretty impressed with it.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started with your presentation.
Okay.
So, because I'm a little anxious to hear what you have to say.
Well, I'm not going to say it's all common sense, but it all borders around a lot of research. And I will tell you this, just because it worked in my backyard, it might not work in yours. There's no guarantee.
Right.
You're still dealing with wildlife, you're dealing with nature. And if you really think about it, the odds of a migrating bird coming over even my backyard, which is relatively decent size, is next to none. So to catch the migratory birds, you have to do a lot of work. And you just got to hope for the best. This year, I haven't had any new birds. Last year, I had 9. So yes, it's a hit or miss.
Yeah.
It's hit or miss. As far as landscaping, native landscaping, whatever is in your area, research it. I started out trying to attract hummingbirds. So almost every plant in my backyard flowers. I have a lot of red and I have a lot of orange, a lot. But it worked. For a long time, I had a lot of hummingbirds. This year I've had 3, but mainly because I think due to the winter, but it's neither here nor there. When you attract the native, or when you plant your landscaping native, you're attracting the native butterflies, insects, all of that. I have snakes, frogs, lizards. I have it all in my backyard, which attracts the birds. So in reality, you're not trying to attract birds. You're trying to attract the insects, really, basically what it amounts to. So do your research, find out what you need to plant. If you have a specific, like hummingbirds are just easy because it's flowering. So you plant according to what you want to attract. If they're native, they're going to attract everything. Before I get too far, there's 3 things you got to have. You got to have food, you got to have protection for the birds, and you got to have a water source. I tell everybody that water source is probably the most important thing to have. But as far as your feed goes, have a variety. Have your sunflower seeds, your songbird mix, whatever you want to call it, your suet, I always have raw peanuts out for the blue jays because they get cranky if it's not out there, and a different variety of feeders. Birds like different varieties. So I'm not going to get into the food. Don't go expensive on it. There's no need to spend a lot of money on food, all right? They're going to eat it, period. If you do that and attract a variety of birds, I believe you will see an incredible increase just by planting native. Yeah, just do your research and plant whatever's going to grow. Like in Texas, Linda, in your backyard, if you go native, most of them are drought resistant. So you have to water less, although I water mine about 3 times a week just because it's therapeutic. So yeah, go native. And like I said a while ago, water. You have to have a water feature in your backyard of some kind. I don't care if it's just a bird bath. I have a huge fountain in my backyard. I'll show y'all a picture later, but it's huge. I just built it this fall. It's about 8 foot by 6 foot. It bubbles. It's 40 gallons. It's quite extensive. Probably overdid it a little bit, but that's okay. As trying not to get too much in the photography part of it yet, but it all works together. You always want to have your feeders and your water features kind of close together because the birds always have a staging area. If you watch your birds, they either land on your fence or in a tree. They all have a favorite staging area before they fly to your feeder. So if you can put up perches or anything in between, they'll start using those. So that always helps as far as photography. Let's see. Berries. If you get a Yupon holly, or I got a blackberry bush, 2 of them that are starting to produce finally after 2 years. So that's a big plus for like cedar waxwings, all your birds that you're not going to bring down with feed. There's a ton of them out there. Your warblers very rarely go to feeders. Yeah, your warblers, your cedar waxwings, there's a ton of birds. Mockingbirds, your thrashers, they very rarely go to a feeder, but they will come to your backyard for water. All birds need water. Don't forget it. Always have fresh water in your back. I can't express it enough. You put water in your backyard, it's going to improve everything. Everything, always. And if you can make it move, make it move. Bubbling, dripping, it doesn't matter. If you have a bird bath, there's a product called a water wiggler. And it's just a little dome that spins and it makes your water ripple. It makes them think it's fresh, clean water and they come to it. It's pretty amazing. My dogs ate mine. That's the reason I went to a fountain. 2 of them. But yeah, those are basically all you need is if you go native and with a water feature, and I don't care about the feed. I really don't. The food is not all that important other than having a variety. A lot of people say that the blue jays are bullies. Well, they're probably bullies because they're having to compete with other birds to go to feed. I have a designated feeder for the blue jays. And they leave everybody alone. When it gets empty, they let me know. They squawk and holler at me. So yeah, that's important. Variety. Just I hate to repeat myself over and over and over. But it's research. It's all about research. If you find a bird that you want to attract, like you don't have scrub jays in your area, do you, Linda? Do you? So if you want to attract the scrub jays, peanuts. And then, God, I love the scrub jays. They're so fun to watch. They're like our blue jays up here. So yeah, if you plant or put peanuts out in a designated, like a hopper feeder, and if you can get them to come, once they start coming, they'll always come. Mine come every morning between 7 and 7:30, every morning. I get really upset when I'm out. Of course, you always have your chickadees, your doves, all that stuff. I'm trying to think of a different bird that we have up here. I had painted bunting last year, which blew me away. I had to stare at it for a while before I realized what it was, because we just don't get them in Dallas area, in the city. Been here 9 years and I've seen 2 in my backyard. So that was kind of cool. And the first thing he did, he went to the sunflower feeder and then he went straight to the fountain that I had. So I'm pretty sure it had something to do with the water. Anybody got any questions so far?
I'm actually scrolling through. I'm not looking. I'm not finding any questions yet. Let me look here. Yeah, no, not yet. So yeah, no, you're good.
I'm good. All right. This is my first time, guys, so I apologize.
No, no need.
I want to really stress the water a lot. Like I said, I got a 40-gallon tank that I have. And I fill it up every day. Of course, up here in Dallas, it's hot, so I lose a lot to evaporation, but I make sure it always has water. let's get into the photography part of it. Yeah, I know a lot of people earlier were saying, you can't get close enough. Well, that's where I started. And I started with a 300 millimeter lens. And for anything else in the world, it's not that great. For backyard birding, it's perfect because you're not going to the birds, you're bringing the birds to you. So one of the things I learned from our friend Ruth Hoyt was using perches, or you call them staging areas. I had the opportunity to spend the day with her at Laguna Seca Ranch, and she uses them. And she would find a branch on the side of the road, and she zip tied it to a rebarb that was stuck in the ground, put some soot on the back of it, and I'd be damned if those birds didn't just come one after the other. So I'm sitting there in that blind thinking, I can do that in my backyard. And that's what I started doing. And I started out using an orange Home Depot bucket full of sand. And if I found a stick, I just stick the stick in it, something to hold it. And you can move it around. You can put flowers behind it. You can do whatever you want to do. Give you an example. Let me find one that I took in my backyard. Could be pretty close. Of course, I can't find one right off the top of my. Get down here. All right, this one right here. This was taken in my backyard just a couple weeks ago. See that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
You've got to hit that share.
How about now? Oh, wait.
You gotta hit it. Yeah, there we go. Here we go.
Right, you see
there
that?
I see it. Yep.
That blue jay was about 15 feet from me. And that milkweed, what you don't see is in a big pot. I mean, it's all about presentation when you're photographing. You want that bird to do exactly what you want. And what you don't see is right below his feet, there's a peanut that I stuck in a hole in the backside of that stick. And I have a lot of that. What you can do is I make my own soot, which probably wasn't a good idea because I have to make it almost every weekend now. And if you make it without where it's just peanut butter and lard, if you make it real soft, you can put it behind anything and they will go to it. I mean, it's like a magnet. Peanut butter is a magnet for birds. Why? I don't know. It's kind of like a dog, but they love peanut butter. I have probably 10 perches in my backyard now. And all I do is I take a little Dremel tool and I make holes in it, and then I stick that soot on the back side. So when they come in, you get a picture, you don't see anything but the bird and the flowers. And that's what you want. You want a good, clean background with your flowers and your bird. The bird is your main focus. So that's what you want to do. You want to bring that bird to you. If you can't get close enough with the 300, bring a perch closer to you. Put sunflower seeds on it, peanut butter soot, peanuts, it doesn't matter. Once they find it, they'll start coming to it. And that's all I do. I mean, I can spend hours in my backyard, and the blue jays will come down, they take the peanuts, I get up, I go put more peanuts, and until they do exactly what I want them to do, and they'll keep coming. So it works out really nicely. How much time we got, Linda?
Oh, you've got plenty of time.
Have we
Keep
got
on
plenty of
going.
time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me interrupt you with a couple of questions before I lose track of them. So one of the questions is that there was some chat about painted buntings, and everybody loves a painted bunting.
Everybody loves painted bunting.
Any tricks on how to attract them to your garden?
Well,
Your yard?
okay. I'm trying not to do this. I really want to, but I'm trying not to because, like I said, in 9-10 years, I've had 2. So for me to spend a lot of money on Texas cup grass, that is a die-hard, that is they love it. It is like a magnet to them. You can get it in one place in Dallas or in Texas. I can't think of the name of it. Just Google Texas cup, CUP, grass. And you can buy it by bundles. And it's about $20 for 5 little bundles. But they love it. As far as other than that, I had no suggestions other than water. I mean,
Yeah.
last year I had 3 different kinds of warblers. I never have warblers in my backyard. I built that fountain and I had 3 within like 2 weeks, and 2 different kinds of orioles. I've
Yeah.
never seen an oriole out here. So I went and bought 2 orange feeders, and I haven't seen any since, but I bought them. So you just have to, when you see a bird and you want it, do what it takes to get it down. I mean, that's
Yeah.
basically what you're trying to do.
So Ben is curious, how do you avoid getting overrun by squirrels?
Tree rats. They mostly go to my sunflower feeder or my peanuts. So I don't put a whole lot of peanuts out there in the morning. I go out there every morning. I get up at 4:30 every morning, and I put probably a couple cups of raw peanuts in my feeder. That way they eat them before the squirrels get a hold of them, because I'm not a big fan of the squirrels in my backyard. Although I have 3 big dogs, so they chase them quite a bit. So there is no surefire way to keep them out. There's just not.
Okay. And then Michelle's wondering, do you use a photo blind?
I have actually, this winter when everything was frozen over, everything but my little fountain, I had so many goldfinches and pine siskins, and I have what they call a lens hide. You can get it from, oh crap, I can't think of the name of the company now. It's called a lens hide is what it's called. And it pretty much, you can stand, you can sit, you can do whatever you want. Your camera sticks out. And I can take my little chair and sit between my patio and my fountain. I can get within 10 feet, put that blind on, lens coat. That's it, lens coat.
Let's go.
Go to
Okay.
their website and go under lens hide.
Yeah.
I'll be able to sleep tonight.
Um,
Go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
But yeah, I use it quite a bit actually. And if I'm photographing ducks, I use it almost every time. When I'm in the hill country photographing deer or the birds out there, I take it every time.
Karen's wondering, is there an ideal water depth, or do birds need an edge to stand on near the water?
If it's going to be deep, yes, they need an edge. I bought a flagstone. Mine is probably 1.5 feet deep. It's 40 gallons, but I bought a flagstone and a couple cinder blocks. So the flagstone actually only sits about 2 inches below the surface. So that way the bigger birds like the blue jays, and actually I had a Cooper's hawk in my backyard the other day taking a drink. So he was actually in the fountain. But for the smaller birds, you want it to, for hummingbirds, I know you don't want it deeper than 1/4 of an inch, which is kind of tough to do. And all the smaller birds, you're looking at 1/2 an inch. So if you can keep it within 1/2 an inch, you'll be all right.
Okay. Egidio is asking, is your fountain constantly moving, or do you keep the water motion to a minimum?
No, I drilled a hole in the rock and brought it up, and I have a hose and it bubbles. I'll show y'all a picture here in a little bit, but it bubbles. And depending on what kind of mood I'm in, I might crank it up a little bit. It's kind of it bubbles onto a rock, which kind of turns into a waterfall that kind of drips. I kind of like the tinkling noise.
Okay.
And that attracts the birds. Yes, but it moves all the time. I don't have it on a timer. It runs 24/7. And if you want to buy a pump, either Harbor Freight or Home Depot, you can get them really cheap. They're not expensive. And the one I got out there, I think I paid $15 for, and it's lasted almost 2 years already. So it worked pretty good.
There's quite a few questions here. I want to get to photography, but I'm going to indulge these people that are into landscaping.
All right.
So, Michelle is curious, when you made your landscaping decisions, did you outsource to nurseries that deal with native plants only?
Yes. Here in Dallas, there's one in Rowlett called Covington's that is outstanding. Outstanding place. Unfortunately, some of the times you got to go to the more expensive places to get your native plants. Luckily here in Texas, your Texas sages, your Texas lantanas, Flame acanthus, Turk's caps, all of those are accessible pretty much at Home Depot most of the time.
Mhm.
But if you want to get something a little bit extravagant, I had to go to Austin to get my Pride of Barbados, and it's actually doing really good. It's getting ready to bloom. I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, do your research on, they're actually becoming very popular, native nurseries. And just Google and try to find one that's close by, and usually they can help you out with anything you need.
Okay. Susan's wondering, do you ever use a game camera to see what shows up at night?
No, it's on my list of things to do. No, I haven't. I got rabbits in the neighborhood. I don't know if they actually get into my yard or not. I'm interested to see that. But no, as far as I know, I don't get many nighttime visitors
Okay.
yet
Yet. All right. That you know of.
that I know of.
All right. So let's get back to your presentation. So show me some pictures.
Okay. Well, you saw the Blue Jay picture. This winter I had quite a bit. Let's see.
So remember, share your screen.
All right. When I get to the pictures, I will. Let's see. This was a new bird this last year, the ruby crowned kingslet. I was pretty excited about that. We had a bunch of snow. And like I said, with that running water, it really brought them in. And if you live up north, buy a heater. That way your water doesn't freeze. Because this year we were lucky that mine actually froze over for a little while. Y'all see that?
I'm seeing your Zoom screen. So, yep.
All right, hang on. Let's try that again. How about that?
There we go. Yep, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, so we had the kingslet. Let me see if I can flip through this and actually had a big old crow, which that was pretty exciting. We had a family nest in our tree in our front yard, and they were coming down every day. They're pretty shy. You can see the snow on the limb right there. I had so many birds. Carolina wren. On one of my perches, there was actually a peanut right on the other side of him. And he was having fun trying to peck at it. And there's the old dumb white-winged dove. Not the brightest birds in the world, but they're fun to photograph sometimes. I think that's from Van, Texas, the mockingbird. Yeah, all these were taken in my backyard. All of them. Robin. That's my wife's favorite bird, so I had to get a picture of that. They're hard to get down because they mainly eat, insects and worms and stuff. But with that water, I had a bunch of them coming down to get drinks.
Okay, slow down. First of all, because I'll just throw myself out here and say, I'm new to birds, so I can recognize the white-winged dove because I've got my own, but some of these words I don't know. And I think I know them, but go ahead and tell me. So go back to, I believe it's your wife's favorite bird. I want to say it's an American robin, but correct me if I'm wrong.
That one? Yep, the American robin. Okay. All these are on Flickr, by the way, if y'all can't see that. It's easy for me to keep track of everything and trying to go through my Lightroom catalogs. Yeah, that's the old northern robin. Fun bird to watch. They're a blast to watch. I believe this one was actually a younger bird. He wasn't quite as orange as some of the other ones, but I couldn't get the other ones to come down. So I had to deal with what I had. And that bird, and I was actually in my lens hide at that time, and that bird was probably 10 feet away, 15 maybe, not too far at all. That's your white-throated sparrow. And I took that in my dad's backyard underneath his feeder. Beautiful little bird, fun to watch. Not much different than the house sparrow, about the same size. Then there's the old boring house sparrow. He was all fluffed up. It was snowing like crazy. And I was standing out there taking pictures like an idiot. Got a cold, whole 9 yards. It was awful.
So before you get too far along, I'm surprised that no one's asked. So I'm just going to, again, ask. Talk about the lens that you're using.
The lens, I shoot a Canon 1DX Mark II. Mm-hmm. And my go-to lens right now, believe it or not, is the Tamron 150 to 600. Love the lens. especially when you're photographing birds, because it's very versatile. If I had a 600 prime, some of these bird pictures I would not have been able to get. I'd been way too close.
Too close.
But with the 150 to 600, it's perfect for backyard birding.
Okay.
Anything bigger than that, I mean, unless you got a really big backyard, then I wouldn't go much bigger than that. I would say the minimum would be a 300. I think that would be, when I first started, I had a 75 to 300 and I struggled, but I didn't have this whole setup when I first started either. But yeah, the 300's just about as short as you want to get. I wouldn't go much smaller than 300.
Okay. And then just so that we have it, that someone's sitting here going, well, you're talking about bird photography, help them out with settings. What kind of settings are your go-to settings? And I know it changes. I know it changes.
And it changes constantly. My go-to is no slower than 1250 ever. If you want to get, chickadees are tough because they're twitchy little birds. So you have to shoot fast. 25 maybe on a sunny day. Majority of the time I'm shooting 1250. Majority of the time.
Okay.
Now if it's cloudy or snowy, I was shooting real slow on this one. Actually, I can tell you what I shot on this one. See, I shot at 2500 at 2500 ISO at 1250. So it actually wasn't too bad. At 600 at 6.3, f-stop 6.3, which I mainly shoot at 6.3, but majority of the time. Unless it's super sunny, I'm not going to go much higher than that. I sacrifice my speed, I won't sacrifice my speed because the speed's more important. When you have those little twitchy birds, you have to shoot fast and you don't have a choice. You have to. Yes, you will deal with some noise in your pictures, but the software out nowadays is amazing. It takes care of most of that for you. That answer that question?
It did. Yeah, I always like to help to kind of give people just kind of a starting point because, you've got, there's a lot of different bird photographers, and everybody has their go-to settings. But for the beginners that might not really know where to start, and it just kind of helps them. Like,
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm new to this again, but yeah, 1250 is the go-to setting for me. That's majority what I'm going to shoot, unless it's really sunny and it's a really twitchy bird. Then I'll bump it up as much as I can.
That's great. Thank you.
You bet. Now, that being said, I don't want to go over 3200 on my ISO either. So, I mean, it's hit or miss, but you're also in your backyard, you're closer. It's not like you're shooting ducks that are flying, 50 yards away. And you know how it is. You're shooting by the seat of your pants when it comes to a bird. They land, you got seconds to get the picture. So I start with 1250. If he's going to sit there and let me take pictures, then I'll adjust from there. But I usually start right out at 1250.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, I did not get that in my backyard. I wish I did. That was actually a White Rock Lake. Let's back out of this and let's see. Oh, here's a goldfinch that I took in my backyard. They're really fond of Niger and or thistle seed and white millet. I went out and bought a bag of just that, and they tore it up. I mean, I went through a feeder worth every day during that snowstorm that we had. Between them and the pine siskins, I'd never had these birds in my backyard, and I had probably, between the pine siskins and the goldfinches, probably 50 of them all at one time. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was pretty happy about that. I'd never seen them in my backyard, so it excited me. Let's see. It's gonna go slow. This is the one that hit my yard last year. As a matter of fact, I'm posting that picture tomorrow morning, so y'all get a preview. He came down, went to the fountain, and then he set up on a perch, nice and pretty, right in front of me. I got 3 or 4 really good pictures, which I was extremely happy about. Beautiful bird, one of my favorite birds to photograph. And you should have better luck, Linda, being down in Austin. You should have a whole lot more than we get up here. Now, that being said, for us Dallas people, if you go up to Sherman, up to Hagerman National Wildlife Refuge, there's a bunch of them. You'll see the grosbeaks, the indigo buntings, the painted buntings, about an hour north of Dallas. One of my go-to places.
Jennifer has a really good question. She wants to know, how much do you use cropping to get a fuller frame?
Ooh, it depends on the bird and how close I am. When it comes to bird photography, you really want that bird to be the main focus. I mean, you really do. Linda, that picture you posted of the red-winged blackbird on the field of maize,
Yes.
that was a great picture. Now, if you were just birding, you'd probably crop that one a little tighter.
Sure.
Because nobody cares about what's around this bird. It's about the bird. So now these are not cropped very much because they're really close. Now my duck pictures, I crop those a little bit because obviously they're a lot further away.
Right.
But not much. I mean, not much. I don't crop them much at all. The ones in my backyard, because they're like 15, 20 feet away from me. I'm close. So it makes it nice. And it makes your pictures look better too. Let's see. Oh, this was a popular one on Instagram last week. Oh, come on. That was that cat. There it is. Little house finch, perched on red yucca. I got 4 red yucca, and it's right underneath my desert willow, all native plants. And I got lucky. I was hoping one of them would land on there, and he did. I was pretty surprised. They usually don't do what you exactly want them to do, so you gotta shoot by the seat of your pants, kind of. But every now and then they'll do exactly what you want them to, and you get lucky. Man, I got so many. The white crowned sparrow, one of my favorite backyard birds. They're one of my favorite, just because they're cool looking. For a sparrow, that's a great looking bird. So yeah, they're fun. I had about 5 or 6 of them this year. They stayed about a week and then they disappeared. So I was lucky to get that. And that picture is not cropped, by the way. That bird was so close to me. I thought he was going to land on my camera when he flew in. As a matter of fact, I had to zoom out to get him all in. But all these pictures that you see with the perches and stuff, all these are right around my fountain. And in the wintertime, like this one, that water is important. I mean, they can get food and they can find shelter, but running water in the dead of winter is hard to find. So especially if you live up north, that running water is, I can't even stress how much that water is important for backyard birding. If you want to bring them in, you've got to have water. Got to.
David, do you have any pictures of your fountains that you could share with us?
I do, actually. Yes. All right. Now, don't look at my fence. The fence is falling down. I got to replace it. So don't judge me by my fence. Now, that was taken, y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay, y'all, that was taken this afternoon at about 4 o'clock. Over here, can y'all see my cursor? Can you see that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I got my sunflower. There's my Oriole feeder I need to take down. That's my Niger seeds for the finches, my regular bird seed, my songbird, whatever you want to call it. And that's my peanut hopper for the blue jays. And right on the other side, you can't see it, I have soot. And then down on my fountain, I cut a hole in the rock and I placed a platform feeder down in the rocks so you can't see it. And then I put food there.
I'm sorry.
It's just a variety. You don't have to have a bunch of feeders. You just need a variety.
Yeah. Would you repeat that? Because you kind of cut out for me. You said you cut something in the middle of the rock?
Oh, okay. I cut a hole in the rock and set the platform feeder down into the rock. So you can't see it, but it's kind of recessed, is basically.
Okay.
And I guess I didn't actually, I got another picture. This might be of that. Nope, same one.
And Elaine's wanting to know, how deep is that water?
That's about 2 inches. Right in the center, it's about 2 inches. Now, if you see this rock right here, it's about ½ an inch deep right there. But it doesn't show up real well, but that's a bubbler up right there. It's about 1 inch high. And then it overflows right here into the fountain, so you get the nice, pretty sound. So I guess if you look close enough, you can see that recessed feeder right there. And all I did was leave holes, and I just went and bought, these are all black-eyed Susan, native Texas flowers. You got your Indian blankets, you got your milkweed, and I just built a flower box basically behind it, and those are just potted plants. And then there's holes for these three right here, there's holes, and I just set the plant down in those holes and going about my business. I mean, and when this winter, those pictures I told you that were real close, I was sitting about 10 feet in front of that in my lens hide. But I see my hummingbird feeder. Yeah, I mean, you can tell I have a dog. I have 3 big dogs that kind of worn it out right there. But it doesn't have to be that extravagant. You basically just have to have moving water, and you can put perches, like I said, in a Home Depot bucket. It doesn't matter. That bird don't care. You know, as you're gonna take the picture above it anyway. So you can put sand in it, and then you can put plants around it, and it's versatile. You can have a bunch of plants and you can change them out, or you can change your perch out. It's so versatile. All of these perches that you see, I can remove them. They're sitting on rebarb. I just drilled a hole in the bottom, set them on the rebarb. So if I get tired of it and I want a different perch, I can just take it off and put a new perch on. But that's because I get bored and I just I just start playing with it. It's just, I enjoy it. It's kind of therapeutic for me. I'm out there every morning and most afternoons. Most of the time I don't even have my camera. I just sit out there and enjoy it.
Do you have you placed any birdhouses on your property?
Not yet. That's next year.
Okay.
I didn't get around to it. I got blueprints for 2 or 3, and I'm going to make different ones and put them around. Been kind of waiting on the new fence. I don't want to put them up on this fence yet. So
David Wilson's curious, what is inside the fountain box? Is that dirt or what's in there?
Oh, actually, okay. So where the water is sitting is a 40-gallon oval tub, and it is actually sitting on the ground. Basically, I dug it out and put reinforcement with rocks and 2x12. That fountain's not going anywhere. If there's a tornado, it takes everything away. That fountain's still going to be sitting there. And then I just went to the local masonry place, stone place right down the road, and I bought a bunch of flagstone. And I just started placing the flagstone, cutting the flagstone, putting them where I want, and just basically built it around. I would probably do it different if I was to do it again. I forgot to put a drain in it, so it makes cleaning it very difficult. And I'm not tearing it apart to put one in. So yeah.
Okay. Well, what you've done, honestly, is you've created your own backdrops. You've created a stage for these birds to come in, pick a perch, and as bird photographers, what we're looking for is opportunities to get that clean background behind them. And it's not really about, all these flowers in front of them. You just want 1 or 2 just to highlight that, to draw that color. If you get like a goldfinch near those, black-eyed Susans, it's just a beautiful color combination. And I think, it doesn't matter. I mean, like I said, I have a teeny tiny postage size backyard, which was done on purpose. And I just put in a kind of a bird bath. Mm-hmm. And the activity I get in the back is ridiculous.
It is. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Even if, like you said, just a basic bird bath, even if it's not running water, any water will bring up, especially Texas summers. Yeah. Dead of summer during a drought, there's not water puddles anywhere. Right. They're going to hunt water.
Right. And and a lot of people, I'm that person. It's like more house sparrows. How many sparrows does my yard have to support? And at one point I looked out and went, there's like 40 of them.
That's it.
I was getting bored with them. Well, this tiny yard, I was bored with the sparrows until they jumped into the bird bath. And every afternoon became let's take a skinny dip.
Yeah, it's a blast.
Sparrows became fun to watch.
Well, okay, so don't run your sparrows off. something I actually learned just a couple months ago, which I don't know why I didn't think of this, but it makes perfectly good sense. Okay, so your warblers, your smaller warblers, when they migrate, a majority of them actually look for your residential birds, your chickadees, your sparrows, your smaller birds.
Yeah.
They're going to feed where it's safe and where there's water. And a lot of migratory birds will follow residential birds to where they feed. So the more sparrows you have, the better chance you have of seeing migratory birds.
Oh, I had an amazing amount of migratory birds this spring. It blew me away how many different birds I was able to pull.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is therapeutic. If you guys are thinking about doing a little setup like this, don't think, do it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be 8 foot by 6 foot, 40 gallons. A simple water bath that you can buy anywhere will work. Now, I'm a firm believer that running water means fresh water to these birds. So if you can make it move in any way, just a little simple drip system of any kind will improve it. They like to see moving water for some reason. I guess it means it's fresh and cool.
Yeah. Well, the question is, how did you learn about birds? And then my question is, where can you point people to learn a little bit more about birds? And don't say Mr. Google, because I asked
That's
you
where
one
I
time.
get it from.
I know.
Like I said, I am not an expert by no means.
Mhm.
People ask me all the time, well, how did you know this? Well, I Googled it. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to be an expert to Google. On my phone, though, I do have iBird. It's a paid app, but it's I think it's like $9.99, and it's fantastic. It gives you the sounds, what they look like. It gives you all sorts of stuff. I think is it Merlin or Marlin?
Merlin. Mhm.
Merlin. I use that quite a bit. Obviously, you can tell. But the way I learned most is sitting on my back porch without my camera and watching them.
Observing, right.
That picture that's up right now, majority of the birds will land on the left-hand side where the bushes are. And they would fly from the bushes straight to the feeder. And out of necessity, because you can't get a picture of a picture on a bird feeder it's not going to sell. People don't like them. I mean, they're fun, but that's it. So out of necessity, I started watching other people, asking questions on Instagram, Facebook. Of course, I spent a day with Ruth Hoyt, which if you ever get the chance to do that, do it. It's amazing. And talking to just other birders. I mean, that's the best way to learn. If they'll tell you, a lot of birders, they like to keep that stuff to themselves. I'm not that way. So if you have any questions, just ask. I will tell you if I know the answer. If not, I'll Google it and we'll find out together. Yeah, it's all about research. Basically, I mean, you can sit in your backyard. I got a pair of binoculars right by my back door. My camera's over here behind me. That way, if I do see a bird that's new, I can rush in here and get my camera and at least try to get a picture, or I'll set up the next morning and hopefully he'll come back. I mean, but you'll learn more by just watching the birds and what they do, when they move, how they move, where they stage before they come to their feeders. And that's 50% of the battle. I mean, just knowing how that bird's going to behave. Then again, it's Mother Nature and you're guessing. So, I mean, they might not go to that perch. You might have to change your perch up. They might not like it. Any perch, if you notice, all mine are at angles. They very rarely light on a stick that's straight up and down. Put it at an angle. Whatever angle you want them to land on, they're going to land on that. So,
yeah, a lot of it, I think, is strategy of how do you want your photo, how, sometimes you want that perch to be part of your landscape where it just blends in. But sometimes those perches, especially if you're using, beautiful, foliage, flowers, you really want to highlight that. So kind
And
of
that's,
give the direction of you, zip tying it to your perch.
yeah, and you just make sure you have a clean background. I mean, you don't want to put it right next to your fence because then your fence is going to come into play. And if you look close enough to some of my pictures, you can actually pick out the slats in my fence, because the light's shining through.
Right.
But for the most part, I'm far enough away from my fence where it blurs it out.
Mhm.
And all I get is my perch with my backdrop, whatever flower it is I decide to have.
Mhm. Perfect. Perfect. I'm looking, I don't see any other questions in here yet. But this is something that I will share because Jamie is saying most Audubon societies have classes. So you might want to check those out because a lot of them, because we're still not open, fully open, you might check and see if there are opportunities to catch Zooms or some type of webinars.
Also majority, I'm not sure about all, but majority of national wildlife refuges,
Mhm.
they'll have websites, and usually they'll do tours. I know Hagerman does one. They'll
Okay.
have birding tours, and you can go on walks. And
Yeah.
I mean, Hagerman, if you live in the Dallas area, is an amazing place. In the winter, you get snow geese and all sorts of birds. In the winter, ducks. And in the summertime, you have all the buntings and warblers and hummingbirds, and it's a great place. You don't even have to actually get out of your vehicle. You can drive it. It's great, air conditioned.
Air conditioned or heated seats. I'm in.
Exactly.
Totally. I'm
Exactly.
totally in. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. What else you got?
Well, that's about it, I think.
You think that's about it? All right.
I think-
There were a lot. Okay. I'm going to get you to take down your screen.
Okay.
David, you generated a lot of questions, and most of them, guys,
Oh, are they
were
good or
not.
bad?
Yeah, no, that's great. Most of them were, okay. You know what? Thank you, Don Simpson, for reminding. Before everybody got into the room, somebody said, hey, what are some ideas for hummingbirds? And you promised you were
Oh,
going to
yeah.
hummingbird
Okay.
secrets.
So it's about as simple as you can get. If you've ever tried to photograph hummingbirds, you will spend a majority of your time chasing them. They don't stay long enough. And then by the time you catch them, you got to focus, you got to take the picture, and they're gone. You get blurry pictures. So best thing to use is a Coke can. It's got to be a Coke can. It's got to be red. And then whatever flowers you can find, I use my sage or my lantana, and you just cut off a stem that's about 6 inches long. You fill that Coke can full of water. You put that little flower in there at an angle, and you sit there patiently and wait for that hummingbird. You're already pre-focused. Just a little tip: if you don't do back button focusing, learn it. It's a game changer. You focus on that flower, and then you sit and wait. If you can do live view and use a remote release, it's even better. But you just wait for them to come. And when they come, you're already focused, you're already ready, and you get a lot better pictures. Case in point, let's see, do I still have it up? I'll show you a picture that I took exactly that way, and you'll be surprised. You will be surprised how easy it is. I mean, really. And all you got to do is just be patient because they will come to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see that bird was about 6 feet away, and
Yeah.
I got some that are even closer than that, somewhere, this one. So, I mean, you can get them close, but you got to be patient. You don't chase them. If you chase them, you'll drive yourself nuts and you'll lose your mind and you'll give up on trying to photograph hummingbirds.
Right. Do you use flash on any of your birds?
No, I do not.
Okay. No.
Some I probably should. I've wanted to try it on the hummingbirds, but I'm kind of, I don't want to mess up my picture. If I can get a picture, I don't want to ruin it, So I know I can get them close and I don't need the flash.
Okay.
But if you have to shoot slower, if it's cloudy, sure, throw in some field flash so you can shoot faster.
All right, let me scan.
But I will warn you, if you use a flash on a hummingbird, they won't come back for a while. It scares them.
Okay. All right, so let me just glance through here. I'm not seeing any other questions. So that leads me to thanking you for coming and doing this. And I know, I mean, you said right off the bat, I've never done a presentation and I'm not real
Well,
sure what I have to
I'm
say
sure
or
I missed a
offer.
million different points. I know I did, but basically research native plants and water. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, let me go back to what I was saying was you said I don't really do presentations and I'm not real sure what I have to offer. And I was like, come anyway, because I cannot overemphasize this. I don't, everybody knows this about me. I'm terrible. I don't follow a lot of people on Instagram because I just do not have time. But I do look for, I go to people's websites, and your website was one that I spent a lot of time in. And mostly because at the time I was very interested in bird photography. I still am. It's still one of the hardest things that I've had
It's hard.
to learn. It's difficult. And what I have found in your blog has been really helpful. And I don't know that it's the way you write, but it's you simplify it and you don't make it intimidating.
Okay,
So
I've got to confess something. My wife edits everything I do. So I'll tell her that she'll appreciate that. She's my chief editor because I'm more of the bird is pretty.
Yeah.
And then she'll add all the fluff and make it sound better.
well, however you guys match up with what you have to throw into to contribute and what she contributes, it really makes a nice blog. And
I
it
appreciate
really,
that.
you and I had a conversation yesterday, and I'll try to paraphrase what we were talking about. A couple of years ago, I had stumbled across a dove. I don't know what kind of dove, but a dove's nest. And I looked over it. I didn't touch it, and I wasn't anywhere. I wasn't really close, but I was close enough to look over it. And I saw two little eggs, and I got super excited, and I took my photo. And and that was it. I never went back to that nest, and that was kind of something that's in my little collection. And I read your article about birds and their nests and their eggs, and you laid out, hey, if you come up to a nest, you aren't you were covering like the ethical reasons to not do this. And it hit me it made such an impression on me of I had no idea that my scent may have brought other critters or predators to that nest. And I don't know that I did, but it has always kind of bothered me that I did. And that's just one of those things that I'll credit you with. I will never take another nest photo. I take pictures of the nest. I just won't take pictures of the eggs. I don't go near
like
it.
we talked about yesterday. That's one of my pet peeves. I hate seeing that in Instagram and Facebook, and it's a lot. People do it a lot. And it's not necessarily that you might be bringing something to the nest. It's the matter that you're putting undue stress on not just the chicks, but the parents.
Yeah.
I mean, you really wouldn't want somebody to do that to your kids. So
Yeah.
it's more of it's not just ethics, it's empathy. And even if they're in your backyard, they're not your pets. They're wild animals, and we should treat them as such. They're not there to feed. They're not there to invade their homes. You're inviting them to your backyard, to your ecosystem that you've created.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do anything to jeopardize that.
Yeah.
At least I don't. And I feel pretty strongly about it. That's one of the few things about photography that I feel strong. And I struggled with that blog. And actually, I just pulled it up because I couldn't remember the name. And it's are you practicing good ethics and showing empathy to your backyard birds?
Yeah, that just left a really big impression on me. And I posted this today, I recently found a woodpecker's nest. And, it's like if I drive by it with my windows open, I can hear those babies, and they are loud. And, but I will not stop where I'm like, go up to the nest, and I'm curious. I want them to come up to the hole and fly out.
Good.
So I don't know if they're ever going to do that, but I did set up, quite a ways, and I've got a nice enough lens that I can crop down.
Yeah.
And so
Sometimes you got to.
it's amazing. It's an amazing thing to stumble upon and to sit and watch. And it's just,
Sure.
nature is amazing. So guys, I hope that you have learned a little bit about backyard birding, just a little bit. That's all we're asking for, is just a little bit. And that you consider growing some natives, putting out some water features, and feeding those squirrels. And I know everybody's hating squirrels, but I love the squirrels. My friend says that I'll give up on that after they keep, eating me out of house and home, but I really do.
Rat.
Yeah, they have a place. There's a place for them in my yard. So, all right, David, thank you so much for coming on and doing this
You
for
bet,
us.
Linda. You
Yeah,
bet.
I super
Thank you.
appreciate it.
And
Yeah.
thanks for everybody for showing up.
Yeah. Okay, you guys can find David at cutsnaturephotography.com. And if you're on Instagram, be sure to give him a follow at Cuts Nature Photography. Next week, B. Rosenleaf will be here to present The Alchemy of Alternative Photography and will introduce us to the art of cyanotype. So until next Wednesday, go out and create something beautiful. And I hope that we see you again soon.